Hello everybody, welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to use Creo parametric patterns. So let we start with a new part and make a sketch over the right plane. I'll take a center rectangle with these dimensions. Now I'll extrude this to 10 units. Then I'll take another sketch on this face this time and make a circle with 10 units diameter and 8 units from the center. Now I'll extrude this to 25 units, then okay. Now did we assume that we need to make a pattern or repeat this part? All we need to do is to select it from the modular tree here and then select pattern. Okay. Now let we talk about the first type of pattern, and it's the dimension pattern. As you see here I have these dimensions, and once we take one of them that can specify the direction of the copies of the pattern of this cylinder. So for example, let me take this dimension and set it to -50. Okay, as you see here I have a black point, and this point represents the location of the second copy of this part. So we can control this distance between them by entering it in this field, as you see. Let me now show you. So this is the result. Now if I edit the definition for this, assuming that I need 5 copies of this part, all I need to do is to enter 5 in this field, as you see now. Okay, again, let me assume we don't need this copy to appear. All we need to do is to make a click over this black point. Now as you see it's a white point. That means it will not occur when we finish, like this. Okay, now let we move on to something with a higher level. Now let me assume that I need to make an increment in the height of this cylinder. So all I need to do is to make a click in this field, hold Control and select this dimension. Now let we make an increment with 5 units for each copy, then click OK. Now as you see I have an increment with 5 units for each copy of this cylinder. Okay. By the same way I need to make an increment in the diameter for this circle. So what I need to do is to make a click here, hold Control and select it and specify the increment to be 2, then OK. As you see now I have 2 increments, one of them in the height or elevation of this cylinder and the second one on the diameter. By the same way I can take the increment in a negative values, so let me take this to -2, as you see now. Okay, so this is the first type of Creo parametric pattern, and it's a dimension pattern in one direction. So let me delete this pattern now and edit the definition for this rectangle. Now let we take another circle here. Okay, now I'll select it again from the modular tree and make another pattern. As we previously said, let me take this dimension and set it to minus 40 and repeat it for 4 times, then okay. Now that we specify another increment in this direction, so we make a click here, then select this dimension and set this value to be okay. Now as you see, I have another copy of all this pattern, but this time in this direction. If we show that, okay. Now I can make more than one copy of this. Let me take 5 for example. Let me set it to be 4, then okay, as you see. Now let me talk about the increments. So if I need to make an increment, okay, let me assume that we need to make an increment in the elevation in this direction. So we make a click here, hold Control and select the elevation dimension and set the increment to be 5, then okay. Now as you see, I have an increment but in this direction, okay. And let me take an increment but this time to be in this direction. So I'll select this field, hold Control and select the diameter dimension and set it to 3, then okay. Now I have an increment in the elevation on this direction and another increment in the diameter but in this direction, okay. Let me talk about something else. Let me delete this and make the increment in this field. I'll hold Control and take this and set it to 3, then okay. Now as you see, I have 2 increments but in the same direction. In this direction I have an increment in the elevation in addition to the increment in the diameter, okay. As you see now. So this is Creo parametric dimension pattern in 2 directions, which you liked. Welcome again. Now let me talk about another type of Creo parametric patterns. So let me take a sketch on this face and specify another references, okay. In order to know that, we have the square with 200 dimension, okay. Now I'll take a sketch on this face and take a circle, 85 in this direction and 85 in this one. I'll take this to be 25 units, then okay. I'll select this extrude now and click pattern, okay. Now let me move to the second part of Creo parametric patterns, and it's the direction pattern. As you see, I don't have any dimension now, so the software now is waiting for me to select a direction in order to make the copies in that direction. So let me take this edge for example. As you see, now the copy is occurred in this direction. Let me set this to 5 and this to 25, like this. As you see, I have them in this direction. So let me change this let me remove this one and select this edge, for example, and reverse the direction. Then okay. Now as you see, I have them in this direction. Another option is to take this line, for example, and reverse the direction. As you see, this is the previously defined sketch. I can use it as a direction for my pattern. Okay. Also, I can take it in this direction. I have 10 cabins over each other. We can increase this space to be in order to see this. Okay. No. Okay, so now let me take it to be with this direction and set this to 7 and set this to 25. Okay. What if I need to make this pattern in another direction? All I need to do is to make a click here, then select the second direction. Okay, now I'll reverse the direction and set the spacing distance to be 25 and the number to be 7. Then okay. As you see now. Okay. So let me remove this and select this time. As you see, the first one goes in this direction and the second one goes with this one. Okay. Now let we talk about the increments. So this is direction 1 and this is direction 2. For example, let me make a click here. As you see, I have all the dimensions now. So as we previously said, we hold Control and take the elevation, for example, and set it to 2. Then okay. As you see, I have an increment in the elevation with 2 units. By the same way, I can make the increment in the diameter for this direction and this one, as we previously said. Okay. Now let me talk about something else. So as you see, this is how we select an edge and make a pattern about it. So we have more than this option here. So this is the rotation one and this is the translation. So let we move on to the translation one. So now we select the edge, but this time the software will take it as an axis to make a rotational cabins of the item you selected about. Okay. Again. As you see now, for example, let me take this one or this one. Now all these parts will rotate about this edge. So let me set this to 10 and set this over 10. As you see now, this is the angle. Okay. Now let me edit the definition for this one. And the last type is the coordinate system. Okay, as you see here now, I have X, Y, and Z. So I show this one and select it, then it will be my reference now to make the cabins. So for example, let me make 20 copies, or let it be 5 copies, and this to be 25 on the X direction. As you see, my X now is here, so let me take this to be 50, then okay. As you see now, I have 5 copies of this item with a space that separates each two of them by a 15 units on the X direction. Okay, but we take another 15 on the Y direction. As you see now, I have an X component in addition to Y component, like this. And we can add Z component, like this. Okay, now what if I set this to 0 and this? As you see now, I have to use this method if I have a coordination. So all these were in the first direction. So in addition to this, I can take another direction. For example, let it be this, or to be a rotational motion or repetition. So let be over 7, then okay. Now, as you see, the first direction was a coordination for these, and the second one was this angle but with a rotational motion, and we divided the angle. So as you see, I have the coordination and these results from the second direction. I can control the number here, also I can control it here, so it to be okay. So this is the second type of Creo parametric patterns, and its dimension pattern. Look at this. Okay. Now let me, in addition to all that, I can add an increments in the first direction, also in the second one. Okay. Now let me delete this pattern and go back for this. Okay. Now let me talk about the third type of Creo parametric patterns, and it's the axis pattern. So now we need to define an axis to make a revolution about it. So I'll take this one, and it's the x-axis. Now I need to make 10 copies of this part, and I need them to be with equally spaced angles. What I need to do is to make a click over this button to set the right value of the angle, then okay. Now as you see, I have them with equally spaced angles. By the same way, I can define a second direction and define an increment from here, but for now let me take this second direction to be 3. As you see now, I have 3 circles of the same pattern with separating space. I can define it from here. So let me set this to 60, as you see, or set it to minus 30, then okay. As you see now, also I can define an increments. So let me take the first direction, for example, hold control and set this to 3, then okay. Okay, as you see now, I have an increment, but this time just in the first direction. Okay, let me set another increment now, but this time on the diameter, and this will be in direction 2, I mean this one. As you see, once we move on the second direction, I have an increment in the diameter. So this is the second increment I've just defined. Okay. So this is enough for axis pattern. Click OK. And now let me delete this one. Okay. Now we will talk about a very important type of patterns, and it's the fill pattern. Before that, let me make this. Let me take this plane and take a center line from here and take an arc and take it by this way. Then I make a revolve now, then click OK. Okay, so now I'll take extrude 2, then go to pattern and define a fill pattern. Okay, now the software asked us to define the space that will be filled, so we go to reference, define, and take this face to make sketch over here. So what we do now is to define the area that we need to fill this pattern in. So I'll take a projection and take a loop over this part, then okay. Now as you see, I have multi-cabins of this part, but all of them will be included inside the sketch that I've just defined. Now from here I can control the space between each copy and the other, so let me take this to be 30. As you see, I have many copies now. Okay, also I can control the shape of the arrangement, so let me take this one for example, or take this or this one. As you see, I can control the arrangement type. Okay, now let me talk about an option now here. For that, let me show this, then edit the definition for this one. Okay, now if I go to options and take follow surface shape, before that let me take the sketch before pattern and take this revolve for it too. Okay, now I'll go to options and select the surface for example, then okay. Now I hide this. As you see the distribution as it goes and take the shape of the surface again. as you see, we can control them from the options. Now we have many options now here. Okay, so this is the type that we call fill pattern. It's a very good one. So let me delete this one now and show you something. I'll take this to be in the center. Now I'll take fill pattern and define this sketch. Now let me take this, as you see. Okay, I can also take this. So this is how we use fill pattern in Creo parametric.